Assalamu alaikum everyone, and as you can tell by the title of this video is talking about how I became Muslim. I think more importantly how I became God and how now all the dots in my life have been connected together, especially right now in Ramadan. So Ramadan Kareem to all of my brothers and sisters in Islam who are watching this video, and those who are curious on just my journey as an overall of what made me make the decision of becoming a Muslim, which is very interesting because if you know anything about me, I'm very hard-headed. I know what I want. I'm very, very focused and detailed. So the fact of me becoming a Muslim was probably the least likelihood out of all of my circle. But you know, Allah guided me and He blessed me and favored me and gave me love in ways I could never imagine, and I could not become a Muslim. So in this video we're going to go through like some ups and downs of my journey, my story, and I think that this video is more to documentate it for me to look back on, for my children to look back on. And I'm sure there's going to be one or two people who watch this video and really resonate with it and really feel with it. Now, I'm going to try my best not to cry within this video because I am going to try and be as vulnerable as I can to share this. But at the same time, there are some details I want to keep away just because as I'm getting older, the privacy is more and more important. But I think that is also in my duty to share this, to contribute and serve so you guys can learn from me, use me as an example to do better than me, to learn from my mistakes, avoid my mistakes, but also the things I did right, also copy them and emulate and model those. And the things I did wrong, trying to avoid them and also add your own spin-off to it. So, without further ado, welcome to the video and assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Dan Chung, aka Champ, and if you're new to the video, well, or new to me as a channel, I am pretty much born and raised from the UK, a Chinese background from Hong Kong. I have a single mum who worked 3 jobs to make it happen. She literally did everything from the age of 4, 5, 6, 7. And pretty much most of the struggles that you can think of as a single mum or a single parent would have trying to just put food on the table for us. Now, I wouldn't say we had it the worst of the worst, but we didn't have it easy. And I think the emotional trauma and struggles that my mum had to go through definitely compiled onto her, and she had to kind of really step up and do the best she could. And that's what parents do, right? They do the best that they can for their children, and they're still learning, and also it's their first time as well, especially being a parent myself. And that really hurt as I kind of grew up and started to understand that. So that's why I'm trying my best to be more patient and more loving with my mum, because it's very easy to blame and say, but why not this, why not that, especially as you get older and you have your own ways of thinking. That's maturity. So to kind of introduce that split bit before going into like the real God bit is, during my childhood and growing up and everything like that, I would say the most amount of emotion I've ever felt is anger and violence. I think that is the only way I've really learned to deal with anything. Not having a father figure means that you don't know how to deal with your testosterone, you don't know how to deal with your emotions. Not having a father figure meaning that you don't know how to do a tie, don't know how to shave. YouTube wasn't accessible then, so I didn't know how to do that. I had to go to my neighbors to learn how to do a tie. Shave, I didn't even know how I did that. It just kind of happened. But there's a really touching and loving part of this which is going to be really good at the end of this to kind of coincide with this. Alongside with that as well, like dealing with my violence and anger and things like that, I didn't know how to control if people were triggering me. I also one of the, I guess the ones that sucked the most and felt the most was I was actually really good at sports. I really enjoyed playing football, really enjoyed a lot of sports, but I only took it to a certain level. But every time I had competitions, my mum wouldn't be able to make it because she had work. And it's like, yeah, we got to the semi-finals, but who was it to celebrate? Everyone's celebrating with their parents, their brothers and sisters, their family, but I was just kind of left alone. Not only that as well, after practice, I have to wait hours on my own by myself. Even the coaches have gone now. The coaches tried to wait with me, but they have gone. My teachers have gone because my mum was late because she had to do whatever she had to do. So, a lot of these things, and I don't want to kind of spend the whole time talking about my life story and how depressing it was. There were a lot of good times. I think all of those are good times because they make me appreciate now, and it's made me and my mum closer, and it makes me and my mum resilient. My mum had a really tough first part and a really tough second part of her life, and I made a vow that I'd make sure that the third part would be better. And unfortunately, during that third part there was a few problems. So to kind of jump over the growing up bit, let's go on to the trading and how everything kind of came to it. So a lot of you guys may or may not know me for trading, and that's pretty much where I made my first pot of gold. That's kind of where I changed my life around. It built me. So did the gym. I owe my life to gym, obviously trading, and of course now God. More importantly, I owe God my life. And these 3 things combined have pretty much made me a man that I could never imagine that I would have become, but I did want to become something as close as I can now. And that's how I always like to introduce myself and say that I'm the man that I always wanted to be. I'm successful on my own terms. It's a me versus me. Like if I was 18, I'd look at me now and be like, that is a man. And also not only that, I'd look at 18 and look at me then, I'd say, wow, that made me proud. And even if I go back in the future and look back at myself, I can say I make myself proud. And I still look at myself in the mirror and think that I'm proud of everything I've accomplished and everything I am. I'm not perfect, but I'm happy with the way I am now, in peace, in gratitude, in proudness, and in happiness as well. And obviously the most merciful and most forgiving that Allah has guided me to become the person that I am. Now, that being said, in those 10 years of struggle, I had this vision to basically sit where I'm sitting now and to have these types of conversation, is to have more than enough money in the bank to not really worry about where my next meal come from. That was one of the realization. I wanted to be rich, and yes, of course, a millionaire as well. But really and truly, what does it really mean to become a millionaire? Does it really matter? Like, it's just a number in the bank. If you've got nothing to do with it, it's very pointless, right? And the truth of the matter is that I found out a few years later that all I really wanted to do was to be able to eat at restaurants without looking at the price. That's it. Like, I just generally really like food. You know, some good steaks, good company, and just go with my missus and have these experiences. And if anyone, especially now Ramadan as well, my first time fasting, I'm loving food even more. And that's really it. That's kind of all I was really looking for. And to be able to also not do that for myself was the first level, but to do that for my loved ones, like my mum. She wants to go in, okay, mum, yellow, like, buy it. Like, my wife, okay, cool, buy it. Okay, my wife, on a bit of control, because she definitely loves spending, but who doesn't, right? But the point of the matter is, that's all I really wanted to do. So then fast forward that, with all the struggles, and if you want to hear all of those, you can go find out more on other videos and podcasts, is that I ended up achieving all of this. Now, as I achieved all of this success, I had actually one flight ironically, from London to Dubai. And when I was in Dubai, I ended up buying this watch on the way. So this is a Hublot Classic Fusion, and every single one of my watches have a story. This was basically to achieve success, to be able that all my, like, I had 3 businesses at the time that were kind of running and doing quite well. And not only were they running and doing quite well, like, I was actually generally at a moment like, wow, like, I've done it. And I've just overcome like a really big obstacle as well. And during that time in Dubai, the 2 things that really yearned towards me, and this was my first calling to God, was people were praying 5 times a day, and I thought that was incredibly strange. Like, wow, like, I've never really saw, I knew people prayed 5 times a day, but I never really saw it. But in Dubai, you see a lot more. There's call to prayers, you can hear it in the malls, people do it, and you start to meet a lot more religious people, like, good and bad. And I'm not one to judge, I'm just saying, like, all ends of the spectrum. That being said, it's like, oh, okay, I wonder what it's like to pray more, because I meditated, and meditation is very hard for me when my attention is all over the place. I've definitely got some level of ADHD, where if you're trying to count to 10, feel your fingers, feel your toes, my head is thinking about all the million things I should have done or should have contributed to, or whatever it may be. So asking me to feel like a tree is really difficult, whereas I really like now the answer of praying is, you know, the most merciful, most forgiving. Allah Akbar. You have something to follow. There's a guideline where you are praying, right? There's an intent with it. It's just the same as gym. Like, when you go to the gym, you have the intent to go to the gym. So everything kind of changes. And then the one thing that actually changed everything is I watched this podcast by Vic Blends and NLE Chopper. And man, this was crazy. Now, bearing in mind, I'm exposed to Christianity a lot. My wife's a Christian. Growing up, my auntie was a Christian. Went to church a few times, Sunday schools. Everything was Christian. And even in this podcast, I was watching it, they're Christians. And Steve Harvey was the next bit of that guided me a lot to God. He's a strong Christian. Now, in this podcast, there were still 2 things that really hit me. It's like, sometimes God will give you all of these things and let you carry it, and your backpack starts getting real heavy, like, you know, I want a little bit of this, I want a little bit of this, I want a little bit of that, and you start climbing, it gets a bit heavy, you know what I mean? Like, I think if you guys resonate with that metaphor, like, you know what I mean. Like, when life just gets heavy, like heavy, you're just like, man, this is, I don't know if this is worth it, you know, more like, is it, this is tough, you know? So that being said, you start thinking to yourself, like, is it worth it? And not only is it worth it, it's like, where am I going with all of this? And you start seeking purpose and all of these types of things. But anyway, that's one of the things that hit me really hard. And the second one is like, he goes, sometimes God will give you all, take it all away, just so you know what it's like with and without, and the lessons that need to be learned within it. And my God, mashallah, like the lessons learned in that, not only just hearing that and now actually thinking about it and saying that I've lived those lessons, changed absolutely everything. This was my first encounter with God, and Allah. And the thing is, Allah is just an Arabic word for God. It's crazy how, especially now becoming a Muslim, is the Islamophobia, and also like people just get so like offended. Even like Christians get offended by the word Allah and Allah Akbar. It literally, it's propaganda, it's fine. It literally just means God, and it also just means God is the greatest. And Alhamdulillah, it's praise. Like it's just Arabic words. Even Christians who are Arabic use that word. So, you know, it's kind of crazy, but that's a whole nother topic. But long story short, after jumping onto that onto God and having a feeling with Him, and that was like my first real connection. This fast forward, I started listening to Steve Harvey, started really getting connection with God, started praying, started being grateful. I listened to this one song. It was like a hill song, like a Christian song. And in the song it says surrender, like surrender to my Lord, surrender to Jesus Christ, surrender. But the word is surrender, 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 surrender. And I just uncontrollably cried. And I'll put a link in the video down below. And it's something about that song that's just calling and yearning to me to say like, yo, Dan, like, not having a father, not having to do everything. I've got to shoulder a lot of people. I've got to shoulder my wife. I'm the man now. I'm not a kid, you know. I got mouths to feed. I've got 2 kids. I got my wife. I got my mum. I got all of these things that I have to solve and manage, and it gets heavy. Like I said, heavy. Like, but who like I got everything. I can solve the problem. You got a problem, I'll solve it. Everyone knows I'm the guy to go to, right? If you're in my circle and I can help you. But who's got me? Like, who's got me? And then that goes into the bit of surrendering. And if I surrendered God, like Allah has always been there for me. I didn't know how to do my Thai, but Allah had a good enough neighbor to show me how to do my Thai. He put me there. Yes, I had a lot of violence, but He put me in those conditions so I was able to get myself out of those situations and handle them and be resilient. Now I'm patient. I'm calm with my anger. I understand who I am. I don't like violence, but you're forced in those situations. So same thing. He put me in them so I can learn from them. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He guided me in so many ways that I didn't even know. And then I started to get this connection with just things like this. As soon as I said surrender, like all of these things just started compounding and flooding in, and I was like, whoa, this is a lot. So then I started to surrender, started to lean on Him, and started to pray to Him, started to show my gratitude to Him, started to let the heart open and let the love come in, as such to speak. Now, as fine and dandy as that scene and the happy story, unfortunately that's not where it ends, and that was just the beginning. So yes, I achieved everything, I became the man, business was going well, bought the watch and everything. Then came pretty much the 2 biggest lessons of my life. I lost more than money that I ever made in my life all in one go, which I was able to make back. But that year taught me tolerance of money. That felt like it was the toughest year financially, but I was still pretty good because I had God. Then last year was the worst year of my life mentally. Long story short is, again, I'm just trying to keep them short because I don't want to go into the too much and also don't want to get too emotional. But my mum ended up finding out just as things were getting better. Like, damn it. On February, my mum had a scan and she was coughing for a while and she had a scan. So then in her left lung, she had a bit of a dark spot. And I'll let you guys jump to the conclusions because I just don't really like saying the word out loud, which is why I avoid doing it on podcasts and stuff like that. And we had to go through many, many things. And then it became urgent because it was a 6x4, so it was the whole left lung. And then from there, we ended up having to do this, the scans, the consultations and everything. And I'm trying to be strong. I'm trying to manage the emotions. I'm trying not to, like, we're just all over the place. I don't even know what to do. I still don't even know how I would manage it. And yeah, and also I'm trying to stay strong for my mum, but I'm like, okay, staying on the outside, cool, like, I got this. Mum, like, it's okay, we'll figure it out together. And then, that being said, we had like 6 months of that, going in and out. Obviously, we found out the pain, the family, just, it's just hard. Even it's still sinking, still healing right now. And then she had an operation. Now, in the operation, she went in, so on the Wednesday and Thursday. Now, bearing in mind, one of the biggest things I said to myself was when I was in the hospital many, many years ago, went from benching 140 kilos for the first time ever, business was good, hit my first big trade, and then went into hospital. I only had an appendicitis, but for some reason I couldn't eat or breathe, and I was stuck in ICU for a week. Like, I had oxygen problems. The one thing I always remember is coming out of that surgery room alone is very painful and solitude, because my mum had to work again. And I made sure that, yes, there, like at that time, and I healed over it. I had a little bit of like resentment. I was like, why is she not there? Why is she? But I understand. But still, you can't help the way you feel. So I made sure that when this time, she would never have to feel what I feel. So I was there the whole time. And obviously that's painful, seeing your mum go in, seeing your mum come out, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's just raw. It's just raw. It's your loved one, seeing them in these types of positions just kills you. It literally kills you. There is parts of you that just die with it. And then this is where the compound and this like really killed me and made me surrender. Is on a Thursday, my mum came out of the surgery room. Out of all of that 6 months, all of these problems came accumulating, and finally I feel like, okay, cool, now we can go to the next phase. Then on the Friday, another very close family member had the same thing that I found out. Now I have to deal with that. Then just on Friday, you can't even make this up, 1 week later, my son then goes into hospital for a huge bump on his head that I literally panicked and lost, and I was just so scared of internal bleeding and all these things that could happen to him, and after that I broke down. When it's my like parents and stuff, it's like, okay, I got this, I can figure it out. But when it's yourself, you're just like, when it's your kids, you just don't know. Like he's 2 and a bit, he can't speak, he can't tell me what's work. Like can he see? Like you just, yeah. So, as you know, like some of the videos I made last year is like I'm okay, not okay, and that kind of summarizes of why I wasn't okay. And then that wasn't even to finish off. That's where I mentally broke down, and I didn't know it, but if your mind's sick, your body gets sick. I ended up getting sick 6 times within 2 months. I had nightmares back to back of my mom, the family, like all of these things. Like it was just unreal. Had a lymph infection, which I'm still recovering from, psoriasis. I got head, all of these things. My skin's pretty good, but it was just all messed up here. I still have all the lumps and everything. And I had a lung infection, had a chest infection, I had cold, man flu, everything, and it was just horrible for 2 and a bit months straight. Then it got to a point where I was just praying and praying and praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. And then I finally get to myself where one of my brothers was going through a lot. There's just 2 of us, so me, Jay, and Carl. And Jay was going through a lot, and then, I saw him. And of course I have the right to have a victim mentality of me going through a lot. I did go through a lot. I think here's a really dark part of it. It's like I genuinely understood why a lot of people gave up on that part of their life. I genuinely understood. Like I never said I would give up, but I understood it. Understanding it is probably close to being just as bad. Because I was like, wow, I understand why people give up. So I'm grateful that I've got the mental fortitude, and this makes me even more empathetic. I always tried, like people who met me, says I've always got the highest energy, I'm nice. That's because I know that everyone I meet, even every single one of you are watching, you are going through something. No matter how big, how small, we are going through something. That's life. Yeah. The last thing I want to do is be another problem for you. If anything, I want to be a light. I want to be that beacon. I want to be holy. I want to be funny. Whatever. Just make it like, you know how you feeling. Things like that. And that's energy, and that's life, and that's how we attract, and that's how we grow, and that's how we become better. So, moving forward to the next step is that my brother then ended up telling me all the problems he's been going through and he's been holding in. And this is what I was like, this is enough. And this is why I say you change when you had enough, you've grown enough, and it hurts enough. I was like, mate, my situation is shit. It's only going to get worse. Like, I need to change. Not only do I need to change, I need to take this on again. And then I flipped the switch into me, and it was like, man, I'm the one who built this shit. Like, brick by brick. Like, I've done this. Like, I've changed everything. I could do it again. This is the test. I haven't learned it. I don't know what it is. It hurts. But yeah, of course it hurts. Let's move this energy into something like, let's grow. Do you know what I mean? And doing that started shifting things, and things started to get a little bit easier. I mean, the hardest bit was already over, Dan. Like, come on. And I started praying more. My habits in my life started changing a little bit again. And then you grow, and then I'm still learning the lessons now. But the main thing out of all of this is that this was God's test. I already believed in him. He already gave me everything. I actually prayed for peace, which is actually probably the most important part of this whole story. Is that at that time back in Dubai, when I was looking at this God and everything, the one thing I felt I was missing, as cliche it wasn't, yes, maybe God, spiritual, but I was missing peace. I wanted peace, like just tranquil. Like, those monks, they just look so peaceful. Like, yeah, you can have all the money in the world. Who cares? I just want some peace. Not even happiness, just peace. And that's actually why I went to the mosque, prayed, and when I started looking at everything, and this all kind of goes into it, peace. And then I decided to think to myself, man, I speak like a Muslim already, I act like a Muslim already. There's a lot of things that I really would become, but there were a lot of obstacles that stopped me from becoming a Muslim, which you can understand all those obstacles. I did a podcast with Raheem, and Raheem and Mahmood were like a huge help in my whole journey. So do watch the podcast because I reference them a lot and I talk about it more. But this is more the idea of like my journey individually of how I kind of got there, as opposed to each individual part way. And there's also, I've only got like 25 minutes to try and share it with you guys. Is that looking for that peace, and before coming back to that December of changing everything, and also just before taking that shahada, is that I had a lot of obstacles that were stopping me to become Muslim. Okay, now I already believed in God. Now I didn't understand who Muhammad was, and I also didn't understand what a Muslim is, and I also didn't understand like could I be a Muslim. There was a lot of obstacles. I'm going to go through all of them one by now, quickly now, to bring us back to speed onto the next part. And what it is even though I was, in this Christianity kind of vibe, for some reason I kept yearning towards Islam. I wanted to pray at the mosque. I asked my Muslim brothers a lot more. But I never wanted to become a Muslim at that time because I felt like it was really disrespectful. Why? Because you have to pray 5 times a day. I can't see myself praying 5 times a day. I drink alcohol, and I really enjoyed it back then. And then I also, just my way of life, everything's different. I have tattoos. There's just loads of things that were adding up. And I think, people call this the shaitan speaking to you, but I think it's just generally, I'm trying to understand as opposed to anything. Because don't forget, I was born in the Western world, in England, British, not very Islamic. Not only that, my culture is Chinese, not very Islamic. There's a lot of eating pork as well. So there's a lot of things like you just start seeing like I don't see it happening, and you don't want to cold turkey, and then it's like it's not going to stick. That's the first thing I think of. And also, I feel like it's incredibly disrespectful to people who are. And then Raheem and his friend taught me something really, really powerful. Is that we're all born sinners, and that it doesn't really constitute, and I'm not saying that you should sin and you shouldn't repent and stuff, but like everyone sins, and if God was to redo it again, he would make the world exactly the same place. But the point of the matter of fact is that you're not perfect, Dan, and this goes to anyone who's watching, but the point is like how are you going to change and trying to become better? And then that kind of goes in the whole constitution of life in general. And then Mahmood was trying to explain that to me. He goes, yeah, but that's your journey of your learning. Like these obstacles, it doesn't stop you from being who you are. Yes, of course, these things are not, are frowned upon, and he doesn't encourage it, but he's still saying like, your heart is in the right place and your intent is in the right place and you are going in the right direction. And also for him, I guess they both knew I was Muslim already because I already spoke to them like I was a Muslim. So that being said, I was having a conversation with my wife, and she asked the most amazing question. He goes, what does it really truly mean to be a Muslim? And all it means is that you believe there is only one and true deity, which is God, Allah, or God. Allah is just Arabic word for God, and that Muhammad was the last messenger. It's as simple as that. And to me, that was okay. And I started to resonate with that, started to learn about it, started to understand it, started to see the way of life a bit more and start to accept it more. And then the most important word to come back to it is to surrender. Now, in this journey of peace, I ended up doing all of these things. Then brings us back into this December time where my brother told me all the things he was going through, and then I changed everything. And before I flew to Dubai again, which I guess is quite crazy because now I actually filmed this video and then it got corrupted in when I was in Phuket. But now I'm filming it on the plane, and then maybe it was Allah's message to say like you were flying back and forth, and that's where the journey was. And I guess I'm the closest to him as high as I can be right now in however many thousands of feet in first class. So yeah, Alhamdulillah, that's actually kind of crazy. That's a good realization. And that it was time to take the shahada, and I did that just before I came to Dubai. And my wife was okay with it. It gave me enough time to learn. I guess it wasn't even just obstacles. I guess it was a lot of time for me to accept Islam, and also to me to become the better version of myself and to understand what it actually really entails to become a Muslim. Now the story doesn't just finish there. That's how I became Muslim. But there's one little creme de la creme that is the most important part of this whole story that I want to finish off on. Is that in this whole journey of everything, I was searching for peace. Before I became Muslim, I said, I don't know if I could do Ramadan. I don't know if I could pray 5 times a day. I don't know if I could do anything. I started with Fajr. I started praying. I started doing everything. But this Ramadan was my first one in Dubai. Raheem also made it out as well. So then I did Jummah with him. And when I did Jummah, it was just Friday prayers for those who know or don't know. And as I was praying, when his head is on the floor, which is the most beautiful feeling in the world, which I'll make another video about, you could feel we're in the shade and just feel this breathe when you've said Allah Akbar, and that feels so calming. And then you're fasting, right? So you don't have food, no water, no nothing. So your energy levels are low, but you're also calmer because I don't have the energy to be angry. So you're more calmer. Then I'm doing Fajr, Isha, and then Asr, and then Dunya. Like, I'm doing more of the prayers. Then at one of the, I think it was the fourth day, and also I didn't fast water on the first 2 days of my Ramadan. I was sick, and I was trying my best. So I still actually had a banana and like around 10ish something, and then had some medicine with it. But look, I'm trying my best. I'm not saying that this was the best Ramadan, and it gets better and better. I mean, the third day I did really well. Fourth day I did well. And it's been a roller coaster, and it's been really good. But however, on the third or fourth day when I did it really well, I prayed, and I had it on the balcony, so I opened the door, and then I put it facing this way to the Mecca, and I was like, it would be nice if I could face forward so that the wind is blowing towards me. But it was like, okay, cool, Mecca's this way, and whatever. Then open it, so my back is against the balcony, but here's the best thing: Allah Akbar, and you bring it in, and then it's literally saying Allah is the most merciful, most forgiving, and I bear witness. And you're just doing all this stuff, because I'm doing it in English at the moment, and I'll learn Arabic later. As I'm doing that, there's just this surge of wind. Then as soon as Allah Akbar, you get down, subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you're doing your prayer at the bottom, I just feel the wind go again. And then as I'm on my knees to finish off, to say assalamu alaikum, left and right, right and left, is this peace just hit me. So the craziest thing and the biggest lesson, and I guess I didn't get to emphasize it enough of everything, is that everything you pray for comes your way. It's just not in the way that you seek. I prayed for peace, but it took me on such a big journey. I found peace through all of that story. Same thing with money. I wanted to make millions. I had to lose so much before I made my millions. But there's just so many examples in my life of how that's happened. But the number one point of this whole story is that I found peace from all of that. I didn't pray for peace and then be like, boom, you're peaceful. He's like, you want to know what true peace is? Let me give you pain. Because what's the opposite of pain? Peace. Wow. And that was a bomb. Yeah, I got nothing else to say after that, because that was a realization for me just now as well. Wow. Yeah, wow. So, I'm going to finish off this video now. I think that was beautiful. So, to every single one of you, I hope that you learned something from this video. You shared a journey with me. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for being a part of this video, watching it, and just help if you can like, share, and subscribe. Share it with your brothers, and yeah, Alhamdulillah.